Warm welcome, children. Today we are going to learn the new chapter from our Magic Place textbook, and the name of the chapter is Ginger's Tale. Now, this is actually a story taken from the novel Black Beauty, written by English novelist Anna Sewell. And in her novel, basically, she wants us to understand that we have to be kind towards animals. We should have sympathy as well as understanding towards their needs and emotions as well. Now, let us turn to page 84 from our textbook, The Reader. Ginger's Tale. This is from a story about a horse called Black Beauty, who describes his experience of growing up and working in the farms and cities of England. In one of these farms, Beauty meets another horse named Ginger, who becomes his first companion. So basically, this story called Ginger's Tale is about a horse named Ginger who becomes Black Beauty's first companion. So they are actually having a conversation between two horses, right? Just like how we human beings converse with each other, even animals do the same. They do share their emotions. They do express their emotions, right? And this is a story from the main novel called Black Beauty. So it is about the experience of Black Beauty, whatever Black Beauty has experienced in the field or in the cities, wherever he was being taken. All right, and Ginger is one of his very first companion. Now let us see how the story unfolds. One day when Ginger and I were standing alone in the shade, we started talking. She wanted to know all about my bringing up and breaking in. And I told her. So they were actually having a conversation, both Ginger and Black Beauty. And Ginger wanted to know all about how Black Beauty was brought up. She wanted to know how Black Beauty, his experience, how it was, right? Of breaking in. The meaning of the word breaking in means taming a horse, right? Training a horse to take on a rider. So breaking in means training of a horse. All right. So let us see how the conversation goes on. Well, she said, if I had had your bringing up, I might have been of a good temper, as you are. But now I don't believe I ever shall. Why not? I asked. Because it has been also different with me, she replied. In the first place, I was taken from my mother as soon as I was weaned and put with a lot of other young colts. None of them cared for me, and I cared for none of them. There was no kind master like yours to look after me and talk to me and bring me nice things to eat. A footpath ran through our fields, and very often the boys passing through would fling stones to make us gallop. I was never hit, but one fine young colt was badly cut in the face, and it left a scar for life. We thought of those boys as our enemies, and their action only made us wilder. So, when we read this itself, we understand that Ginger actually had a different sort of a bringing up, and she had to go through a lot of hardships. Black Beauty also had his own struggle, but it was much more pleasant compared to what Ginger had to go through, right? And Ginger saying, if Ginger had Black Beauty's upbringing, she would be of a better temper. Temper means she would be a well-behaved horse, or rather she would be much more sober. But now she was someone who was a little bit wilder because of her experience, her bad experiences basically. And she's also saying that she's saying her story. She's telling that as soon as she was born, she was taken away from her mom. She was taken away from her mother, and she was put with a lot of other young colts. Colt is are young ones of horses, right? A colt is a young one of a horse. And she's saying she was with many other young colts, and none of them cared for her, and she did not care for any one of them either. But then there was no kind master, there was no kind person to look after and bring her good food. So she was actually very sad in a certain manner. And she's also saying there was a footpath that ran through the fields, and very often boys passing through would fling stones to make us gallop. So you must be familiar with this. Some children, without even thinking about it, have a tendency to hurt animals, right? Which is very unacceptable. It is not at all good behavior, because even animals have their own rights. Even they do have certain emotions or feelings. Even they do get hurt. But there are some of them who deliberately hurt animals and who feel that it doesn't matter. And one such incident happened. One of the young colts was badly hurt by the bunch of boys, badly behaved boys. They wanted the horse to gallop. Gallop means the horses normally gallop and they run. So they wanted to see the horses moving. And so they flung stones on a horse, and the horse was badly hurt, right? And this was one of the first experiences that Ginger had. Ginger had seen this, and so it had left a very bad impression about human beings right from the beginning in Ginger's mind, right? So they also thought those boys as their enemies. So generally they felt that human beings were actually their enemies, and that made them wilder. That means the horses wanted to protect themselves, so because of that they became much more wilder towards others. We had good fun in the free meadow, galloping about and chasing each other around the field, then standing still under the shade of the trees. But when it came to breaking in, that was a bad time for me. Several men suddenly closed in on me at one corner of the field. One caught me by the forelock, another caught me by the nose, and held it so tight I could hardly draw my breath. Then another took my underjaw in his hard hand, and pushed my mouth open. So they also had their fun time in the meadows, in the pastures, where they used to roam about freely and enjoy the bliss or the beauty of nature. But the most tough part was the training part, or the breaking in of the horse. And Ginger also had, in Ginger's life, that was the most difficult part. Right? She says that when it came to breaking in, it was a bad time, as several men would suddenly close in on her at one corner of the field, because they wanted to tame the horse. That was the main intention. In stables, horses are kept in order to do various tasks, and the most important aspect was training the horse, because horses are wild creatures. Wild animals need to be tamed according to certain people who keep these animals for their own personal benefits, right? And so training was an important part according to them. And they wanted the horse to be sober and listen to what they wanted the horse to do. And training a wild horse or any wild animal, as a matter of fact, is a difficult task, even for the animal. For the animal, it is much more difficult, right? We can't just imagine, children, somebody else coming and dictating to you to do certain things, forcing you to do certain things. As humans, all of us would really feel bad about it. Similarly, even animals also do not want anyone to force them into doing something. But here, just that was happening. Okay, and these men, in the various manner, they were showing their strength on the animal. They wanted to tame the animal, right? And what did they do? One caught me by the forelock. The meaning of the word forelock is hair that grows at the front of a horse's head and hangs down over the foreheads. And so one caught me by the forelock, another caught me by the nose and held it so tight I could hardly draw my breath. So Ginger was breathless because they were actually enforcing their strength on the animal. So she felt breathless. Then another took my underjaw in his hard hand and pushed my mouth wide open. Can you imagine, children, all those atrocities being meted out to this poor animal? Right? It is total injustice. And we have to understand that even animals have rights. Right? So when we see anyone being cruel towards animals, we should speak up about it. Right? Now let's see in the next page, page number 86. By force they got on the halter and the bar into my mouth. Finally, one man dragged me along by the halter while another flogged me from behind. This was the first experience I had of men's kindness, and I realized it was all force. They did not give me a chance to know what they wanted. I had a great deal of spirit and may have given them a bit of trouble. But then it was dreadful to be shut up in a stall all day. I fretted and pined and wanted to get loose. So now she is expressing all the emotions that she went through, all those horrible feelings that she had went through, right? And she is saying by force they got on the halter. Halter, what is halter? A rope or a narrow piece of leather put around the head of a horse in order to lead it, right? A rope on a narrow piece of leather put around the head of the horse. So they got on the halter and bar into my mouth. So some sort of a bar was kept in the mouth in order to control the animal. Finally, one man dragged me along by the halter. She was dragged by one man while another flogged me from behind. The meaning of the word flogging means being hit. Right? Flogged means punish the horse by hitting it several times with a stick or a whip. Right? Can we imagine that? No. But the poor horse had to go through all that. It was flogged means it was hit by a whip on its back. It's total brutality towards animals. That's what it depicts. Okay. And this was the first experience I had of men's kindness and realized it was all force. Now here the horse is being sarcastic. Ginger is being sarcastic. That means what she really means is that it was really cruel. But she is saying this is the first kindness. So it is sarcastic. What she is saying, she means exactly the opposite. It's called sarcasm. Right? She is saying it was the first experience of men's kindness. And I realized it was all force. That means men would forcefully make you do things that you do not want to. That is what the animal is saying. Right? Because cruelty was being meted out towards her. And that is what she gets from it. That is what she understands. So obviously she would become wild. She wouldn't become sober and well-mannered. Okay. And she also says they did not give me a chance to know what they wanted. I had a great deal of spirit. Now she accepts that she is a kind of energetic wild horse. But she is saying that they did not tell her properly what they wanted her to do. And she is saying maybe I also gave them a lot of trouble, but they were very cruel in return. But then it was dreadful. The meaning of the word dreadful means horrible. Dread, horrible, dreadful. A very bad, horrible experience. And she is saying it is very dreadful to be shut up in a stall all day. So the horses had to stand up in a stall for a lot of time. In a stable, right? In the stall. They had to be shut up. They did not move. They were not allowed to move about. They had to just stand there for a long time. Okay. I fretted and pined and wanted to get loose. What is the meaning of fretted? Fretted means was worried and unhappy and could not relax. Fretted. So she was worried, she was unhappy, she was very much disturbed. Okay, and the meaning of the word pine is became sad and missed something or some place. So obviously the animal would be sad. The horse Ginger would be sad because she was missing her free life, where she could roam about in the meadows on the green pastures, and she could experience all the wonderful things that a free animal could experience. She was missing all that. She felt extremely sad. She did not want to be controlled in a very bad manner. Okay. And she wanted to get loose. Obviously, she wanted her freedom. As human beings, even we love and we cherish our freedom. Same is applicable to animals also. Even they want to be free, right? But what happens is that some people, for their own personal benefits, they do all such atrocities, or they harm animals for their own personal benefits, which is really sad. It's not at all good. Okay, now let's continue. There was the old master though, Mr. Rider, who I think could have dealt with me well, but he had given up all the hard part of the trade to his son, and he only came at times to oversee. His son was a strong, tall, bold man. They called him Samson, and he used to boast that he had never found a horse that could throw him. He had none of his father's gentleness and only spoke with a hard voice, a hard eye and a hard hand. He thought of me only as a piece of horse flesh. So now she is saying that there was an old master called Rider who was very gentle and kind towards her. He could have been a good master, but then when he became old, what happened was that his son took over the entire trade or the business. And then he had given up all the hard part of the trade to his son, and he only came at times to oversee. Now, the story describes how the old master's son is. He was strong, tall, and a bold man. They called him Samson. And he used to boast about himself, saying that there is no horse that could throw him down. And he was also very rude. He was very strong, but he was also very rude and harsh. And he spoke with a hard voice, a hard eyes, and a hard eye. He thought of me only as a piece of horse flesh. That is what Ginger said. So can you imagine how rude he was towards the horse? He did not have any sympathy or any kindness whatsoever towards the animal, and he was very hard. He thought that if you be strict and hard towards the animal would obey him, which is a very wrong approach. And so because of all these experiences, Ginger became much more wilder. She became temperamental. She was not mellowed down, and she would not listen easily to what the stable hands or what the people wanted her to do over there in the stable. Understood? So basically it tells you that animals also require kindness. They also require consideration from our part, because even they have feelings and emotions. They can feel pain. Even they have certain sentiments. So as human beings, what we can do is to be kind towards these animals and also to be kind towards one another. Right? That is what we are taught, and that is how we be humane or civilized. Right? Especially, as I told you, there are certain people who use animals for their own profits. Right? They rear them, they sell them, they do all sorts of cruelties with them, they beat them up, which is again not at all acceptable, and nowadays it's a punishable offense whatsoever, because Animals Rights Act, according to that, if anyone gives a complaint, the person who is meting out these unwanted practices towards animals, they would be taken up by law, right? They would have to face the consequences. But this story is written many years ago, where there was no such animal law or things like that. There was just pure cruelty towards animals. And so the author wanted all of us to understand that we have to be much more humble and we have to be kind towards these animals. Children, I hope you understood it till here, and I want you to underline all the difficult words. The meanings are given here, right? And I want you to read the lesson. All right. We'll meet in the next class. Thank you.